There are moments in life when everything feels unusually intense. The pressure increases, the questions multiply, and the silence from heaven feels heavier than ever. Yet these moments are often misunderstood. What if the very season that feels like delay is actually the doorway to destiny? What if the heaviness you feel is not the weight of defeat, but the weight of something big drawing near? God rarely announces his greatest blessings with comfort first. More often, he allows signs to appear, subtle, uncomfortable stretching signs that reveal he is about to move in a way that will change your life forever. When God is about to give you something big, he does not always start by changing your circumstances. He starts by changing you. The shift begins internally before it manifests externally. That is why many people miss it. They are looking for instant breakthroughs while God is preparing deep foundations. The blessing he is about to release is too significant to rest on a weak structure. So before the gift comes, the signs appear. When God is preparing to release something big into your life, the pressure you experience is not accidental, and it is not a sign that you are failing. Pressure is one of the clearest indicators that heaven is actively at work. Ordinary seasons do not produce extraordinary weight, but extraordinary purpose always comes with extraordinary preparation. The reason the pressure feels so intense is because what God is shaping inside you must be strong enough to carry what he is about to place upon you. Without pressure, potential remains hidden. Without stretching, capacity never increases. Pressure exposes where you are weak, but it also reveals where God is strengthening you. It forces you to confront limits you did not know existed. It presses on your patience, your faith, your emotions, and your endurance all at once. This is why it feels overwhelming. God is not interested in surface level growth. He is developing depth. He is forming roots that will keep you grounded when the blessing arrives. Many people desire the promise, but few understand the weight that comes with it. Pressure is God's way of ensuring that when the blessing comes, it does not crush you. In seasons of pressure, everything feels amplified. Small issues feel massive. Delays feel unbearable. Silence feels louder than ever. This happens because pressure strips away distractions and exposes what truly matters. God allows this intensity so that your focus shifts from comfort to calling. When life is easy, dependency weakens. But when pressure increases, prayer deepens, faith matures, and surrender becomes real. You stop relying on your strength and start leaning fully into God's power. That shift is critical because what God is about to give you cannot be sustained by human effort alone. Pressure also reveals identity. It shows whether you see yourself as abandoned or appointed. If you believe pressure means rejection, you will retreat. But if you understand pressure as preparation, you will endure. Diamonds are not formed in comfortable environments. They are created under immense pressure over time. In the same way, God is refining you into something rare, something resilient, something valuable. The intensity of the process reflects the worth of the outcome. Another purpose of pressure is alignment. Under pressure, God rearranges priorities. Things you once chased lose their appeal. People who once influenced you no longer have the same voice. Pressure clarifies purpose by removing what does not belong. This is not loss, it is focus. God is narrowing your path so you are positioned correctly for what is next. Pressure forces decisions that comfort would delay. It pushes you to grow up spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Pressure also builds spiritual authority. Anyone can speak faith in seasons of ease, but authority is born when faith is tested. When you survive pressure without losing trust, your words carry weight. Your testimony gains power. Your obedience becomes authentic. God is not just preparing a blessing, he's preparing a witness. What you endure now will one day become the evidence of God's faithfulness through you. It is important to understand that pressure is not permanent. God never intends for pressure to last forever. It has a purpose and a season. Once that purpose is fulfilled, the pressure lifts and the promise follows. But if you resist the process, the season extends. The quicker you surrender, the faster the preparation completes. Pressure works best when you cooperate with it rather than fight against it. Many people pray for God to remove pressure, not realizing that pressure is the very thing qualifying them for their prayers. If God removed it too soon, the blessing would arrive without the strength to sustain it. Pressure is mercy in disguise. It protects you from premature elevation and prepares you for lasting impact. If you are under pressure right now, it is not because God has forgotten you. It is because he sees what you are becoming. The weight you feel is connected to the weight of the assignment ahead. The intensity of the process reflects the magnitude of the promise. Do not measure this season by comfort. Measure it by growth. Measure it by how much closer you are becoming to God. Measure it by the strength rising within you. Pressure is not the end of the story. It is the shaping of it. And when the blessing finally arrives, you will look back and realize that every moment of pressure was necessary, intentional, and worth it, because it created the version of you capable of carrying something truly big. When the familiar supports in your life begin to collapse, it can feel like the most painful kind of abandonment. People you expected to stand with you grow distant. Doors that once opened effortlessly now remain shut. Systems you trusted suddenly fail. In these moments, it is easy to believe that God has withdrawn his favor. But this season is not evidence of rejection. It is proof of divine alignment. When God is about to give you something big, he will not allow you to lean on anything that cannot go with you into the next level. God understands that whatever you depend on for security will eventually take credit for the blessing. If your confidence rests in people, platforms, resources, or routines, the miracle will be diluted. So before he elevates you, he removes false foundations. This stripping process feels harsh because attachments are being broken, yet it is an act of mercy. God is not taking things from you to harm you. He is removing them to protect the purpose he placed inside you. When familiar support systems fall apart, it exposes the depth of your faith. It forces you to ask where your trust truly lies. Many discover that they trusted God with words, but trusted people with outcomes. This season corrects that imbalance. God will not share the weight of his glory with human substitutes. What he is preparing to release requires full dependence on him. If others could do it for you, it would not be a God-sized blessing. This is why the collapse often happens suddenly. God does not slowly weaken old supports. He removes them decisively. Gradual detachment would allow compromise, but complete separate. Ion creates clarity. The shock you feel is not cruelty, it is precision. God knows exactly what must be removed and when. He's ensuring that when the blessing comes, your testimony is clear. It was God and God alone. The loneliness that follows is one of the hardest parts of this process. When voices grow quiet and affirmation disappears, self-doubt tries to take over. You question your calling, your direction, and even your worth. But isolation is not abandonment. It is intimacy. God often isolates those he intends to elevate because noise interferes with obedience. In solitude, his voice becomes clearer. Direction becomes sharper. Dependence becomes deeper. This season also reveals who is assigned to your future and who is only connected to your past. Not everyone who helped you start is meant to help you finish. Some people are seasonal, not permanent. God removes them not because they are evil, but because they are limited. They cannot sustain the weight of where you are going. If they stayed, they would become a distraction or a restriction. Separation is not punishment, it is protection. As old supports collapse, God builds something stronger underneath you. He strengthens your faith, your discernment, and your resilience. You learn to stand without applause. You learn to move without approval. You learn to obey without reassurance. These lessons are critical because the blessing ahead will bring visibility, responsibility, and pressure. Without this inner strength, success would become a burden rather than a gift. This process also humbles you. When you realize how much you depended on external support, pride begins to dissolve. You understand that every step forward has always been sustained by grace. Humility becomes the foundation on which the blessing will rest. God cannot build something great on pride, but he will entrust much to a humble heart. Here is also a hidden gift in this collapse: freedom. When false supports fall away, you are no longer bound by expectations, opinions, or limitations imposed by others. You become free to follow God fully without compromise. This freedom is necessary for the next level because what God is about to do will require courage, obedience, and faith that cannot be negotiated. If you are watching familiar supports fall right now, resist the urge to panic. Do not rush to replace what God has removed. Do not cling to what he is trying to release. Let the collapse happen. It is making room for something stronger, purer, and more lasting. The shaking is temporary, but the alignment is eternal. What feels like loss is actually positioning. What feels like isolation is actually preparation. God is teaching you to stand on him alone so that when he gives you something big, nothing else will take the credit and nothing will have the power to take it away. When God is about to move you into something greater, one of the clearest signs is a deep and unsettling change in your appetite. Things that once excited you no longer satisfy you. Conversations you used to enjoy now feel empty. Activities that once filled your time suddenly feel meaningless. This shift can be confusing because it feels like you are losing joy, but in reality, you are gaining discernment. God is not taking pleasure away from you. He is redefining it. He is awakening you to a deeper hunger because what he is preparing to give you requires a deeper capacity. This restlessness is not boredom and it is not ingratitude. It is spiritual growth. When God enlarges your future, he must first enlarge your desire. If your appetite stayed small, the blessing would overwhelm you or distract you. So God begins by loosening your attachment to the ordinary. He creates dissatisfaction with what once sustained you, so thought. You will reach for what truly nourishes you. This hunger is holy. It is evidence that your spirit is waking up to something more. As this shift happens, you may feel disconnected from people around you. It becomes harder to engage in shallow talk. You crave meaning, purpose, and truth. This does not mean you are becoming arrogant or distant. It means your inner world is changing. God is tuning your spirit to hear him more clearly. Noise that once entertained you now interferes with what he is saying. Silence becomes valuable. Stillness becomes necessary. This is how God draws you closer without force. This change in appetite also reveals what was feeding you before. Many people do not realize how much they depend on distractions until those distractions stop working. God allows this discomfort so you can identify what never truly fulfilled you. When false sources of satisfaction lose their power, space is created for divine fulfillment. God never empties you without intending to fill you with something better. In this season, old habits often feel heavy. Entertainment, social validation, and temporary pleasures lose their appeal. You may even feel guilty for not enjoying what others enjoy. But growth always creates distance from immaturity. Just as a child outgrows toys, your spirit is outgrowing certain patterns. God is not calling you to isolation. He is calling you to elevation. You are being invited into a deeper way of living. This hunger also sharpens your discernment. You begin to sense when something is off, even if you cannot explain it. You become more sensitive to what aligns with God's will and what does not. This sensitivity is essential for where you are going. The blessing ahead will require wisdom, clarity, and the ability to discern distractions quickly. God is training your senses now so you are not confused later. At times, this season feels lonely because fewer things satisfy you. But loneliness is not the goal. Intimacy is. God is drawing you closer by becoming the only source that truly fulfills you. When you stop finding satisfaction everywhere else, you start finding it in his presence. Prayer becomes more than routine. Worship becomes more than sound. Scripture becomes more than words. Your hunger leads you to deeper communion, and that communion prepares you for greater responsibility. This shift also protects you. If your appetite remained unchanged, success would pull you back into old patterns. God adjusts your desires so the blessing does not destroy you. When your appetite is aligned with purpose, abundance will not corrupt you and opportunity will not distract you. You will know what to accept and what to refuse. You will recognize what belongs in your future and what must remain in your past. Do not fight this hunger. Do not try to force yourself back into what no longer fits. Resistance only prolongs discomfort. Instead, lean into the change. Ask God what he is inviting you into. Allow him to redefine satisfaction for you. The emptiness you feel is not loss. It is space being created for something deeper, richer, and more lasting. If nothing around you satisfies you the way it used to, it is not because something is wrong with you. It is because something greater is being prepared for you. God is expanding your capacity by shifting your appetite. And when the blessing arrives, you will not misuse it because your hunger will already be aligned with the purpose for which it was given. When God is preparing to take you into a higher level of purpose, he will often begin by confronting the parts of you that you thought were already settled. Old wounds resurface. Hidden attitudes are exposed. Patterns you believed you had overcome suddenly reappear. This can feel discouraging, even confusing, because it seems like you are moving backward instead of forward. But this exposure is not regression. It is refinement. God does not uncover what he intends to condemn. He reveals what he intends to heal. Before God releases promotion, he strengthens character. Elevation without inner transformation would destroy you. Influence magnifies whatever is inside a person. If unresolved pain, pride, fear, or insecurity remain hidden, success will bring them to the surface in damaging ways. So God in his wisdom addresses these areas in private before he entrusts you with public responsibility. What feels uncomfortable now is actually protection for your future. This season of confrontation often happens when you least expect it. Just as momentum seems to be building, God pauses the outward progress and turns your attention inward. He begins asking questions that cannot be ignored. Why do certain things still trigger you? Why do some corrections feel threatening? Why does validation matter so much? These questions are not accusations. They are invitations to deeper freedom. God is not disappointed in you. He is committed to you. Character work is often painful because it requires honesty. It forces you to acknowledge patterns you have learned to hide, but hiding may protect your image. It will never heal your heart. God is not interested in appearances. He is shaping authenticity. The blessing ahead demands a heart that is whole, not just gifted. Skills can open doors, but character determines how long you stay there. In this process, God will challenge how you respond under pressure. He watches not just what you do, but why you do it. Motives are refined here. Obedience that once came easily is tested. Will you still obey when no one is watching? Will you still serve when recognition is absent? Will you still trust when understanding is limited? These moments full RM integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing even when it costs you something. This refinement also teaches humility. When God exposes weaknesses, it reminds you that you are always dependent on his grace. Pride cannot survive in a season of honest self-examination. You realize how much you need God, not just for miracles, but for daily transformation. This humility becomes the foundation on which lasting promotion is built. God resists pride, but he empowers the humble. Sometimes this season includes correction from unexpected places. Feedback you once resisted now becomes necessary. God may use people, circumstances, or even failures to reveal what needs to change. This can bruise the ego, but it strengthens the soul. Correction is not rejection, it is redirection. It proves that God is invested in your future and unwilling to let small flaws become major failures later. What makes this process difficult is that it often happens in silence. There's no applause for inner growth. No one celebrates unseen battles. Yet these hidden victories are the most important ones. They determine whether the blessing will bless you or break you. God does his deepest work where no one else can see, because that is where true transformation happens. If you resist this process, promotion may be delayed. God will not compromise your future for your comfort, but if you surrender to it, the refinement will be swift and effective. Each lesson learned becomes a layer of strength. Each healed wound becomes a testimony. Each corrected attitude becomes a safeguard. If you feel exposed, challenged, or confronted right now, it is not because God is displeased with you. It is because he sees what you are becoming. He is ensuring that when the doors open, you are ready to walk through them with wisdom, humility, and strength. Character is not an obstacle to the blessing. It is the vessel that carries it. And what God is about to release into your life is too valuable to place in unprepared hands. When you have prayed, obeyed, waited, and still see no visible movement, the delay can feel more painful than rejection. At least rejection feels final, but delay leaves you suspended between hope and disappointment. This is where many begin to question God's faithfulness, their own worth, or whether they misunderstood the promise. Yet when God is about to give you something big, delay is often not denial, but divine precision. God is not postponing the blessing because he is unwilling. He is timing it because he is intentional. Delay serves a purpose that is often invisible in the moment. God sees the full picture, including consequences you cannot foresee. If the blessing arrived earlier than intended, it might overwhelm you, expose you, or place you in a position you are not yet ready to sustain. Timing is not just about arrival, it is about readiness. God waits until both the blessing and the person receiving it are prepared to meet each other at the right moment. In seasons of delay, God continues working behind the scenes. While it may seem like nothing is happening, alignment is taking place. People are being positioned. Circumstances are being arranged. Resources are being prepared. Hearts are being softened. Delays are often filled with unseen movement. Heaven rarely works according to urgency. It works according to purpose. What feels slow to you is carefully measured by God. Delay also tests motivation. It reveals why you want what you are praying for. If the desire fades because the wait is long, it exposes a shallow attachment. But if the desire matures, becoming rooted in trust rather than urgency, it proves readiness. God is not just giving gifts, he is building stewards. He wants to know that when the blessing comes, it will be handled with wisdom and humility. Another purpose of delay is strengthening faith. Faith that is never tested remains fragile. Waiting stretches belief beyond emotion and logic. It teaches you to trust God's character even when his actions are unclear. In delay, faith moves from being situational to being foundational. You learn to trust God not just for what he does, but for who he is. This kind of faith can sustain success without losing dependence on God. Delay also protects you from shortcuts. When waiting becomes uncomfortable, temptation increases. The urge to force outcomes, compromise values, or settle for substitutes grows stronger. God allows delay so you learn discernment. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Not every open door is from God. Waiting trains you to recognize the difference between divine provision and human manipulation. This discernment is critical for what lies ahead. In delay, God reshapes your expectations. Many people pray for outcomes without understanding the responsibility attached to them. God uses time to align expectations with reality. He refines your vision so you are not disappointed by the very thing you once prayed for. When expectations are purified, gratitude increases. You learn to value the blessing rather than idolize it. There is also a refining of patience that takes place in delay. Patience is not passive waiting, it is active trust. It is continuing to obey, serve, and believe even when results are delayed. This kind of patience produces endurance. Endurance creates stability. Stability is necessary for longevity. God is not interested in short-lived breakthroughs. He desires lasting fruit. If God answered every prayer immediately, dependence would weaken. Delay keeps you close. It deepens your prayer life. It sharpens your listening. It teaches surrender. Waiting becomes a classroom where lessons are learned that could not be taught any other way. The blessing ahead will require these lessons. If you are in a season of waiting, do not interpret it as neglect. God's delays are deliberate, not careless. He is not ignoring your prayers. He is guarding the outcome. What you're waiting for is being protected from premature exposure. When the timing is right, the door will open without force, without compromise, and without regret. Hold on in the delay. What feels slow now will one day feel perfectly timed. When the blessing finally arrives, you will understand that the waiting was not wasted. It prepared you, protected you, and positioned you for something far greater than you could have handled before. When God is about to move you into a new level of purpose, resistance almost always intensifies. Doubt becomes louder, fear becomes more aggressive, and temptation reappears with unexpected force. This escalation is not coincidence. The enemy does not waste energy on things that carry no threat. Increased spiritual opposition is often the clearest confirmation that you are approaching a breakthrough. What you are facing is not proof of failure. It is evidence of significance. Opposition increases because transition is dangerous territory for the enemy. He understands timing. He knows that once you cross certain thresholds, his access to you changes. Authority increases, influence expands, and impact multiplies. So he fights hardest at the borders of destiny. The closer you get to purpose, the more intense the resistance becomes. This is why moments just before breakthrough often feel the most exhausting. One of the first ways opposition shows up is through the mind. Thoughts of inadequacy, confusion, and fear suddenly flood in. You begin questioning decisions you once felt confident about. The enemy aims to weaken your resolve by attacking your clarity. If he can confuse you, he can slow you down. If he can get you to doubt your calling, he can delay your obedience. This is why guarding your thoughts becomes critical in this season. Opposition also resurfaces through old temptations. Habits you thought were buried suddenly knock again. This is not regression, it is strategy. The enemy uses familiarity to distract you. He wants to pull you backward emotionally or spiritually so you lose momentum. But temptation returning does not mean you are weak. It means the enemy is desperate. He revisits old tactics when new ones fail. Another form of resistance appears through discouragement. Circumstances align in ways that test your endurance. Delays increase. Doors close unexpectedly. Support becomes scarce. These pressures are designed to wear you down, not defeat you outright. The enemy hopes exhaustion will make you quit voluntarily. This is why perseverance is powerful. Simply staying faithful frustrates the enemy's plans. Opposition may also come through people. Misunderstandings arise. Criticism increases. Motives are questioned. Sometimes even those close to you fail to understand the season you are in. This can hurt deeply, but it serves a purpose. It teaches you to anchor your identity in God's voice rather than human approval. Approval addiction cannot survive promotion. God uses resistance to break unhealthy attachments. What makes this season challenging is that opposition often increases while results are not yet visible. You are fighting battles without seeing immediate reward. This is where faith becomes active. Faith is not the absence of fear, it is obedience in spite of it. Every time you choose to move forward while facing resistance, you build spiritual authority. Authority is forged through confrontation, not comfort. Opposition also exposes what you truly believe. When pressure mounts, beliefs are tested. Do you believe God is faithful even when things get harder? Do you believe the promise still stands when resistance increases? These questions are answered through action, not words. Each act of obedience under pressure becomes a declaration of trust. It is important to recognize that opposition has limits. The enemy may attack, but he cannot stop what God has authorized. Resistance can delay, distract, and discourage, but it cannot cancel destiny. The fact that you are still standing proves that grace is sustaining you. God never allows opposition without also providing strength to overcome it. This season requires discernment. Not every battle is meant to be fought the same way. Some require prayer. Some require rest. Some require silence. Some require bold action. Discernment keeps you from wasting energy and helps you focus on what truly matters. Victory is not about fighting harder. It is about standing wiser. If you are experiencing unusual resistance right now, do not retreat. Do not assume something is wrong. Understand what is happening. You are closer than you think. The intensity of the opposition reflects the value of what is ahead. Stand firm. Stay obedient. Keep moving forward. What you are facing is not a sign to turn back. It is confirmation that the breakthrough is near. When God is deeply at work, he often gives a kind of peace that cannot be explained by circumstances. Nothing around you may have changed yet. The pressure may still be present. The answers may still be delayed, and the outcome may still be uncertain. Yet beneath all of that, there is a quiet assurance that settles within you. This peace is not denial of reality. It is confidence in God's presence. It is one of the clearest signs that God is near and actively moving on your behalf. This peace does not remove the storm. It anchors you in the middle of it. It allows you to breathe when logic says why. Who should panic? It keeps you steady when emotions try to take control. This is not a natural response. It is spiritual. It does not come from understanding the situation, but from trusting the one who controls it. When God releases this peace, he is reminding you that the outcome is already in his hands. The peace you feel is not shallow or emotional. It is deep, steady, and resilient. It remains even when bad news arrives. It stays even when circumstances worsen. This is because it is rooted in promise, not in progress. God gives peace not as a reward for resolved problems, but as a foundation to stand on while they are being resolved. Peace becomes the environment in which faith can thrive. This peace also guards your heart and mind. Without it, Fear would dominate your thoughts and control your decisions. Fear rushes. Peace waits. Fear reacts. Peace listens. When peace is present, you are less likely to make impulsive choices that could compromise your future. God gives peace to protect you from yourself during seasons of uncertainty. It keeps you from forcing doors that are not ready to open. One of the most powerful aspects of this peace is that it allows you to continue living faithfully while waiting. You are not frozen by anxiety. You are not paralyzed by what ifs. You may not know how things will unfold, but you know who you are trusting. This kind of peace fuels endurance. It helps you keep showing up, keep praying, and keep obeying even when clarity is incomplete. This peace is also a form of communication. God may not always speak audibly or change circumstances immediately, but peace is his signal that he is present. It is his reassurance that you are not alone and not off track. When peace arrives without explanation, it often means God is working in ways you cannot yet see. It is heaven's whisper that says, "Be still. I am handling this. Peace out." So changes how you see your situation. It does not minimize the challenge, but it reframes it. Problems no longer appear as threats, but as temporary obstacles. Waiting no longer feels wasted, but purposeful. Struggle no longer feels endless, but seasonal. Peace gives you perspective, and perspective strengthens faith. When you can see beyond the moment, you can endure the moment. This piece is especially important before major breakthroughs because blessings bring responsibility. Without peace, success would overwhelm you. God stabilizes you internally before he shifts things externally. He ensures that your soul is settled before your life accelerates. Peace prepares you to receive without losing balance. Sometimes this peace confuses others. They may not understand how you remain calm when things seem uncertain. But peace is not ignorance, it is trust. It is the result of knowing God well enough to rest in his character. This quiet confidence becomes a testimony in itself. It shows that your faith is not dependent on visible outcomes. If you are experiencing this unexplainable peace right now, do not ignore it. Do not dismiss it as temporary or emotional. Recognize it as a gift. God is steadying you for what is coming. He is anchoring you so you are not shaken by the transition ahead. The storm may still be present, but it no longer defines you. This peace is not the end of the journey. It is the confirmation that you are on the right path. It is God's assurance that even though you cannot see the full picture yet, you can trust the process. What you are waiting for is being handled with care, and this peace is the sign that the blessing you are believing for is closer than it appears. Every difficult season you walk through carries intention, even when it feels confusing and exhausting. Pain is rarely random in God's design. When God is preparing you for something greater, he allows seasons that stretch endurance, deepen faith, and test obedience. These seasons are not interruptions to your calling. They are part of the calling itself. What feels like delay or hardship is often the training ground where strength is formed. Endurance is not built in moments of ease. It is formed when you must keep going without encouragement, when progress feels slow and when the outcome remains unclear. God allows prolonged seasons because endurance cannot be rushed. Quick victories produce shallow strength, but sustained pressure builds resilience. This resilience will be required when the blessing comes because every increase brings responsibility, and responsibility demands stability. Faith deepens when it is tested. In easy seasons, faith can remain theoretical. You believe God is faithful, but you have not had to rely on him fully. In hard seasons, faith becomes personal. You learn to trust God without signs, without confirmation, and without immediate results. This kind of faith is unshakable. It does not depend on feelings or circumstances. God allows difficulty, so your faith matures beyond emotion and into conviction. Obedience is also refined during hardship. Obedience in comfort is convenient. Obedience in adversity is costly. When things are going well, obedience feels rewarding. But when obedience leads through uncertainty, it reveals loyalty. God watches how you respond when obedience does not bring immediate benefit. Will you continue to follow even when it costs you comfort, recognition, or control? These moments define the quality of your obedience. Difficult seasons strip away false motivations. They reveal whether you follow God for blessings or for relationship. When rewards are delayed, intentions are exposed. God is not threatened by your questions, but he is refining your heart. He desires followers who trust, even when outcomes are unclear. This kind of loyalty creates deep intimacy. These seasons also teach spiritual discipline. When enthusiasm fades, discipline sustains you. Prayer becomes intentional rather than emotional. Worship becomes an act of surrender rather than a response to circumstances. Discipline keeps you aligned when feelings fluctuate. God builds discipline in hardship because discipline sustains growth long term. Hard seasons develop wisdom. Experience becomes your teacher. You learn discernment through mistakes, patience through waiting, and humility through limitation. Wisdom gained through hardship is practical and lasting. It equips you to lead, to guide, and to steward blessings wisely. Without this wisdom, success would become dangerous. These seasons also redefine strength. You discover that strength is not the absence of weakness, but the ability to depend on God through weakness. You learn that vulnerability is not failure, it is honesty. God's strength becomes visible when your own strength is insufficient. This realization changes how you approach life and challenges. Another hidden benefit of difficult seasons is perspective. Struggle clarifies priorities. You learn what truly matters and what does not. Temporary desires lose importance, and eternal values gain weight. Perspective prevents you from being distracted by success when it comes. You will not chase applause because you understand the cost of calling. Endurance, faith, and obedience are interconnected. Endurance keeps you steady, faith keeps you hopeful, and obedience keeps you aligned. God develops all three simultaneously because they support each other. Without endurance, faith would collapse under pressure. Without faith, obedience would become legalistic. Without obedience, endurance would lose direction. If you're in a season that feels demanding and relentless, do not assume it is pointless. God is forming something within you that cannot be formed any other way. The strength you are gaining will serve you far beyond this season. What feels heavy now is shaping you for what lies ahead. This season will not last forever, but its impact will. One day, you will look back and realize that the endurance you developed, the faith you strengthened, and the obedience you refined became the foundation for everything God entrusted to you later. The difficulty was not a detour, it was preparation. Many people miss the very moment their breakthrough is closest because they misunderstand what God is doing in the preparation stage. When life becomes uncomfortable, resistance increases, and progress feels slow, it is easy to assume that something has gone wrong. The human instinct is to label struggle as punishment and hardship as failure. But preparation often looks like adversity before it looks like advancement. What disqualifies people is not lack of promise, but misinterpretation of the process. God's preparation rarely feels rewarding in the moment. It often feels like delay, loss, isolation, or pressure. Because there is no immediate validation, many assume they are being corrected rather than qualified. They begin to question their calling, lower their expectations, or walk away altogether. What they fail to see is that the discomfort is not a sign to quit, but a sign to endure. The season feels heavy precisely because it is shaping strength that comfort never could. Preparation tests perception. It asks whether you will judge God's faithfulness by circumstances or by conviction. If you believe preparation is punishment, you will resist it. Resistance leads to frustration, and frustration leads to retreat. But if you recognize preparation as purpose, you will lean in instead of pulling away. The same season that breaks one PE, arson builds another, depending on how it is interpreted. One of the most common mistakes people make is assuming that if God were truly with them, things would be easier. But ease has never been the measure of divine involvement. Growth is often uncomfortable. Stretching is often painful. Transformation requires disruption. God disrupts comfort not to harm you, but to move you forward. When comfort becomes the goal, purpose is sacrificed. God loves you too much to let comfort keep you small. Preparation also exposes impatience. Many want the promise without the process. They desire the outcome but avoid the refinement. When the process takes longer than expected, discouragement sets in. Discouragement whispers that the promise was never real, that obedience was pointless, that faith was wasted. But discouragement is a liar. It speaks from limited vision while God operates from eternal perspective. Walking away in the middle of preparation is costly. It does not cancel the promise, but it delays fulfillment. God will not abandon his purpose, but he will wait for your willingness. Every time you step back, the process must be revisited, lessons repeated, cycles restarted. What could have been completed through endurance now requires repetition through resistance. Preparation often looks lonely, which leads people to believe they are off track. But loneliness does not mean abandonment. God often separates before he elevates. He removes distractions so focus can sharpen. He reduces voices so his voice becomes clearer. Many mistake isolation for rejection and run back to familiar patterns that feel safe but limit growth. Another danger is comparison. Watching others advance while you feel stuck can create resentment. You begin to question why obedience has not produced visible reward. Comparison distorts perspective. You do not see what others had to endure privately. You do not know the weight they carry or the process they survived. God's timeline is personal. Preparation is customized, not competitive. Misinterpreting preparation can also lead to compromise. When waiting becomes uncomfortable, people look for shortcuts. They lower standards, accept substitutes, and force outcomes. This often brings temporary relief, but long-term regret. What is rushed lacks depth. What is forced lacks peace. God's preparation protects you from settling for less than what he promised. The truth is that preparation feels hardest just before completion. Like a seed breaking open underground, the pressure increases right before growth emerges. Many quit at the moment they are closest to seeing results. They leave the soil before the shoot breaks through. They walk away from the very season designed to qualify them. If you are in a season that feels confusing, heavy, or unrewarding, pause before you label it negatively. Ask what God is forming rather than what he is withholding. The struggle may not be a sign that you are doing something wrong, but that you are being prepared for something right. Do not abandon a season just because it is uncomfortable. Do not quit simply because you do not yet see progress. Preparation is invisible until it is complete. When the breakthrough finally comes, it will reveal that the struggle was not wasted, the waiting was not pointless, and the process was not punishment. It was qualification. What God is about to give you is not meant for the version of you that existed yesterday, but for the version of you that is being formed right now. Every promise carries a weight, and that weight demands capacity. Capacity is not created instantly. It is developed through process. This is why process always comes before promise. God does not rush transformation because rushing would compromise sustainability. What he's preparing to release into your life requires maturity, strength, and alignment that only process can produce. Process is often misunderstood because it feels slow and repetitive. It involves lessons that seem familiar, challenges that feel unnecessary, and seasons that stretch longer than expected. But repetition is not delay, it is reinforcement. God repeats lessons not because you are failing, but because a future will demand certainty. Half-formed strength will collapse under pressure. God ensures that what is built in you is solid before he entrusts you with more. The version of you being shaped in process learns how to carry responsibility without losing humility. Success has a way of magnifying what is inside a person. If pride, fear, or insecurity remain unresolved, success will amplify them. Process addresses these internal issues quietly and thoroughly. It shapes your heart before it expands your influence. God is more concerned with who you become than with what you achieve. Process also teaches patience. Impatience seeks quick results, but patience seeks lasting impact. God delays not to frustrate you, but to form you. Waiting teaches you how to trust without control, to believe without proof, and to obey without reward. These lessons protect you from becoming dependent on outcomes rather than on God. When patience is formed, peace follows, and peace sustains success. Another purpose of process is alignment. God aligns your desires, your values, and your vision with his will. What you wanted at the beginning may not be what you want now, and that is growth. Process refines ambition into purpose. It removes selfish motives and replaces them with kingdom perspective. When alignment is complete, the blessing will not distract you from God, but draw you closer to him. Process also builds resilience. Resilience is the ability to endure pressure without breaking. The blessing ahead will come with expectations, challenges, and responsibilities. Without resilience, you would burn out or retreat. God allows resistance now so you develop strength that will carry you later. Every setback you overcome adds to your capacity. Every delay you survive builds endurance. The version of you formed in process learns discernment. Discernment helps you recognize what to accept and what to refuse. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Not every open door is from God. Process sharpens your ability to hear God's voice clearly, even amid noise. This discernment will protect you from distractions and detours when options increase. Process also teaches stewardship. Before God gives more, he watches how you handle what you already have. Faithfulness in small things reveals readiness for greater things. Process trains you to manage time, relationships, resources, and influence with wisdom. Without stewardship, increase would lead to loss. It is important to understand that process is not punishment. It is preparation with intention. God does not waste seasons, even the ones that feel slow or difficult are shaping something essential. The frustration you feel is often the tension between where you are and where you are going. That tension produces growth. If you try to bypass process, you may receive something you are not ready to sustain. What arrives too soon often leaves too quickly. God would rather delay the promise than damage you through premature fulfillment. His love is protective, not reckless. Embrace the process you are in. Honor it, learn from it. The version of you being formed right now is necessary for what is coming next. When the promise arrives, you will not just receive it, you will be able to carry it with wisdom, humility, and strength. Process does not delay promise. It ensures that when promise arrives, it lasts.